to prove that they can focus. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like the whole meaning of the prong too. The whole meaning of control is to have more freedoms. How's it been with the prong collar?
Good. I mean, she actually dislikes the prong collar more than, I think it's just uncomfortable for her. It controls her a little bit better, but I think this works the best. I mean,
yeah, because that can actually like match her. This is more so you get more immediate leverage. So if you turn a corner and there's like a person, and you pull up, you have control right away.
The other one was a choke, so I mean the one it chokes, but it's just not. This one she is more sensitive to.
Correct.
So,
and it's the bluntness of the martingale. So like if like let's say it was just like obedience stuff and no behavioral stuff, I go sure martingale no problem. But because you have that defensive, she has that defensive reaction, then I'm like, yeah, you want a bit more control than just the average.
No, but we had people over Saturday, Sunday. Someone came in, she was on the first floor, and one of my brother-in-law who's in college lives in the basement. His friend came over, like walked in, she just laid there. And that, I mean, that hasn't happened. And
has she been before or no?
Never met him.
Okay.
And then usually when we have like guests over, she'll be upstairs. But there was a shower, like baby shower for, it was Molly, Poppy, Saturday, and then...
Baby shower for Molly?
Yeah.
Or for Poppy?
No, for Molly, they're having a baby. But, so like, half the people had left, but I brought her down. And I actually didn't even have her on the leash because it was mostly my siblings. And then, but Rainey and Poppy were over. She just laid next to me and it was totally fine. When normally, like when the dogs are over, she'd be running around like that, like chasing them. And but she was funny because she kept looking at me, waiting for me to tell her what to do.
Yeah. Did you have to tap her at all?
Not very, because the place she's actually been really good with.
Okay. So were you utilizing the place then?
I actually wasn't for most of it, but she was acting as if she would come next to me as if she was in place.
Gotcha. Okay.
And wouldn't break off that unless I told her something.
Sure.
But usually the last few times she's hung out with them, she just harasses them.
Correct.
So, and then Sunday we had people over that she'd never met closely. I mean, she may have been upstairs and smelled them, but, and I brought her down and they were kids, like adults, then she was totally fine.
Okay. And she had her setup?
I had her on a loose leash then, and then I had just this, this setup.
Okay. And since starting your training, was that like kind of the first time you've been able to expose her, or?
Basically.
Okay.
I hadn't had her around many strangers unless I'd have her around like my siblings or people she's met and is comfortable with.
Sure.
But not someone random, because I was just like, because especially in the house, if like kids' friends, younger kids, I don't want, I don't know, just a little kid to do something and she reacts and people are terrified, and the kid never wants to come to our house ever again.
Which happens.
Right. they associate, right.
Realistically speaking, yeah, that's the thing. Okay. Anything else?
No. Yeah, I mean, that's all the stuff on keeping her on task, I feel like it ties into the obedience.
Yeah.
Because then she's working instead of worrying about other stuff.
Correct. Okay. So what we can start today is, do you happen to have a long leash?
This can be.
How long does that get? Oh, I see. So like a 10-footer maybe?
Yeah.
Okay. As I have a 30-foot with me.
Can use that.
And if you have, if you go on Amazon for like $8 to $12, or maybe you can ask Poppy or a Rainy, you can borrow.
Yeah, I can get one.
But it's so that you can practice the recall at a more realistic distance.
Yeah.
30 feet on average is pretty good.
Yeah.
Anything less than that would be too short. Anything more than that would be too long.
Okay.
So 30 feet I think is like the perfect length. This is the first exercise, so I'm going to have to help you. So we'll see how she does. Since we have the two long leashes, because she may not like me moving into her personal space. And this requires me to actually take her from you. And what can also happen is that the dog is frustrated. Alright, I don't have a long leash. But we can use that one, and then you would just transition it to a longer leash.
Yeah.
Yeah, very nice. All right, so I'll coach you through it and I'll explain it to you. And then, will she wander to your side if you give her permission to?
She usually she follows me around for the most part.
Okay, so she won't like leave your side or anything like that?
If we're outside, she would just to sniff, but usually around the house, unless I put her in place, around the house or walking, she's usually pretty close to me.
Gotcha. Okay. Let me think here. Because we covered the stay stuff already, right? Stay.
In place?
So we did, so this was class 4?
Yeah.
So we did heel for sure.
Yep.
And then
we did all the different.
Then we did place.
The first 2 we did the different heels, and then we did a full thing of place.
Gotcha. Okay, so what we can do is I'll show you how I work on the stay, and we'll do that from the heel position, and then the next one we can jump into recall. If you want to order a long line,
Yeah.
30 feet.
Okay.
I usually have one with me, but I left it in my car.
Okay.
And my car is like 5-10 minutes that way, so, and I'm not a runner.
No worries.
Step out using your right foot. So it's going to look like she's in heel, right? Stay, pivot out to face her like this, keeping your leash short just in case she moves. Okay, so if she were to get up, you would pull up and tap to sit her. Wait a second, and then you're going to step back to her side using one big step with the left foot. Okay? So here, coach you through it. Go ahead and wave left hand for the stay.
Stay.
And then pivot out with your right leg. Up, tap, there you go. And you're going to step back with your left leg. Step back to her side.
Oh.
Yeah, like that. And then go ahead and you're going to heel into a pivot here.
Do heel and then return
Then
back.
immediately pivot, yep.
Heel.
Then left hand stay.
Stay.
And step out. And you want to keep your leash short. Just in case she tries to follow you, you're able to pull up to stop her. And then reposition. And then step back to her side. Very good. And then heel.
Heel.
Good. Good pivot. And slow to stop.
Stay.
Right. Now pause right up, tap, yeah. And here, what's your number currently?
85.
85? Let's go down to 60. Since we're teaching something new, we always go down low. Now, when you stepped out here, just so you're aware,
I stepped with my left.
you did left to the right, which is a common thing. Yeah. And you want to do just purely
swing
right leg, okay? Try it a few more times. Heel.
Heel.
Good crossover.
Stay.
Good. Then step back to her side. And heel.
Heel.
Good. And we're going to do 2 more.
Stay.
Right. Good. Back to the side. And 1 more.
Heel.
Good crossover.
Stay.
And back to her side. Very good. So now we're going to do the same concept, except now once you step out in front, you're going to do a half circle walking in front of her, landing back in front, and then stepping back to her side. Heel.
Stay.
Right, good. Excellent. And 4 more.
Heel.
Crossover.
Stay.
Good. Back to her side. And heel.
Heel. Stay.
Good. Heel.
Heel. Stay.
Good. And then up. There we go. So if she starts to scratch, you can pull up to pull her away from it and tap to get her attention back to the task on hand. We'll do a couple more.
Heel. Stay.
Good. And last one.
Heel.
Good.
Stay.
Very good. So now,
Good girl.
same concept, but you're gonna step out, right? Stay, pivot out. First, for the first one, you'll do a half circle. And if that goes well, when you're coming back, you're gonna go ahead and come around.
Go in a circle.
Right, full circle. Now, when you come towards the back half of her, she'll either because she's trying to follow you, where she's watching, and she'll turn her head and it causes her to get up, or
She'll flip over.
she'll swivel. Her butt will stay on the ground, but she'll kind of do this. If the butt's to the ground, you're good. That'll go away by itself. Once she figures out you're just walking around her, that tends to go away.
Yeah.
But if she were to stand up and or lay down, you would up and correct that. And you want to be able to complete one full movement before going back. So if she gets up halfway through a circle, you would correct her and then try to do a full circle again. Yeah, okay.
Heel. Stay.
Right, up tap. And then you're gonna try your circle again. Good.
Girl.
Good. Heel.
Heel.
Good crossover. Good.
Stay.
Break. Place. Good. Back to her side.
Heel. Stay.
Good, couple more.
Heel.
Good, crossover.
Stay.
Tap, tap, right, good, reset your circle. Back to her side, good, one more.
Heel. Stay.
Very good. So now, what we're doing here is just teaching her the difference between stationary and motion.
Yeah.
So the reason why I like to use the heel command is when you put her in the heel, when you come to a stop, what is she supposed to do?
Sit.
What command is she in?
When she sits, in the heel, right?
Yes. She's in the heel. It's like a trick question.
Right.
Because people always think the dog's
Sit.
in a sit. Yeah. So she's in a sit position, but the heel command.
Right.
Okay. So if you were to start walking again, she'd want to walk with you because that's what heel is. Walk with me, stay with me, sit when I stop. So I like to use a moving behavior to help teach the dog between stationary and motion.
Got it.
So here, heel is in effect until you give a new command or you release her, right? So if you say heel, technically speaking, if you walk for 15 minutes and then you stop at a red light, she auto sits, red light turns green, she's still in the heel.
Right.
And if you move forward with your left leg without saying heel, technically she
She's
should move with
still
you.
in.
Yep. So now, when we add in that stay, that overrides the heel. Now she's in a stay. The way I use stay is different. Most people do sit stay, down stay, or like go to your bed stay.
Yeah.
Whereas I just say place.
Go bed, stay. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's all implied. So here, if she's in the sit position, human logic says I can't say sit. She's already doing it. I could say down, but we've not taught down yet with the remote collar. So if I need her to be stationary, what we're doing here is teaching her to stay. And it means stay in the position that you're currently in, okay? So since she's in a sitting position, stay, you step out, she doesn't move. That's what we're trying to teach her.
Yeah.
Is when she hears certain things, you will move, but she won't move.
Right.
Okay? So let's say she were to be laying on her dog bed. She chose to lay there, okay, of her own decision. And you decide, oh, I need you to stay put, because she could technically get off, right? There you could say the word stay, because she's already doing it. You're just telling her, now you need to keep doing it until I give you permission.
Yep.
Okay? Now, if you say place, we would not need to say stay, because it's implied.
Yep.
So I only use the word stay over commands that I've layered the remote collar over. So since we've not taught the down, we couldn't use it over the down position. But because we shaped the sit with the up and tap, she knows how to correct the behavior.
Yep.
So that's why we can layer it over the sitting position. Okay?
Okay.
So like when we're doing this,
Got it. So
I like-
layering it on top of something she's learned. Yeah.
correct. Otherwise, like if you told her to stay in a down position and she got up and you tried to correct her and we had not taught the
Taught
down,
down first.
she won't know what to do.
Yeah.
She's gonna be confused.
Makes sense.
So sit and place are two options. You can layer the stay over if she's already doing it. Here, now we just wanna find places to apply this because applied dog training is the most important dog training.
Yep.
So when you're on your walk, let's say she poops. A lot of people complain that once the dog poops, they're like pulling them and they're trying to pick up the poop. Is you'll pull up and tap on the collar to correct her. Or not correct her, but put her in a sitting position.
She wanted to.
You saw it. You would pull up and tap to put her in a sitting position. Cue the stay for the sake of using the word stay. Stepping out, pick up her dog poop, come back, heel. Okay. Let's say you hit a trash can, you want to throw what's in your hand away. Stay, step out, throw it away.
Yep.
While you're on a walk, once you hit a red light, you want to practice to stay there. Stay, moving around. Red light
Yep.
turns green, back to your side, heel,
Yep.
and then you're on your way again, okay? And for some of my clients with reactive dogs, what they like to do is if they're gonna come around like a corner or something, they'll cue the stay
So, yeah.
so they can check, back, heel, and then move forward, okay? So in my book, stay is kind of like the least useful because everything has an implied stay. Heel, walk with me, stay with me. Come to me, stay with me. Place, go to your bed and don't get off. You know, sit, put your butt down, don't move. But I only apply it when the dog's already in that position. So it's the least useful, but it's one of the 6 that we always teach. Sit, stay down, come, place, heel. Questions on that so far?
No.
So now what we're gonna do is build off of this. So we can do one of 2 things. Since you happen to have a longer leash, you could cue the stay, you'd work your way out. And because you have a longer leash, you can start to give more slack and go a bit further before coming back to her side. Or 2, you can cue the stay, do the full circle, come back, give her a lot of praise, but then you're gonna step away again and she should hold still because that command is still in effect until you release her.
Yep.
Okay? So we'll start with the second one of doing the full circle, coming back, giving a lot of praise. And while you're giving praise, if she gets up, you would correct her back into position, continue to give her praise, and then step out to see if she holds.
Yep.
Okay?
Okay.
Heel.
Heel.
Good pivot.
Stay.
Good.
Good girl. Good girl.
Tap. Right. That's okay.
Good girl.
Tap, tap. Good.
Good girl.
Got a bite coming. Good. There we go. And heel.
Heel.
Good girl. Good.
Stay. Good girl. Good girl.
Tap, yep. Good. Good.
Heel. Stay. Good girl, Greta. Good girl.
Very good.
Heel.
Right, good.
Stay. Good girl. Good girl.
Very good. And last one.
Heel.
Right, good.
Stay. Good girl.
Excellent. And back to her side.
Greta.
Very good. So in here, the next step, like right there, going more the distance of your leash. If you really wanted to build a solid, you're not going to move. One thing that you can do, which is like technically unfair, is when you put them in a stay and you get some, I keep it within an arm length distance, but I'll pull on the leash a bit and I'll trick the dog into getting up, and when they get up, I correct them. And you keep doing that, eventually you'll pull on them and you'll feel them put the brakes, and you can pull like this and they'll just be like that, like I'm not moving.
Right.
If you really want to try to cement it. So like I worked on another, it was a rot mix, it was a rot lab. And one day the guy was having a conversation with his neighbor and the dog just jumped up and bit his neighbor, seemingly unprovoked, according to the guy. And so he was like really paranoid about like, I don't want this ever to happen again. Like if somebody stops me to talk or whatever. So we did that with his dog, and you could pull it your full strength into pulling the dog, not moving. Okay. So with the obedience, it all just comes down to like how, I don't know, well trained you want the dog to be and how well you want them to understand it. But it's technically unfair because when you're putting on pressure, the dog's thinking I need to respond to this. And you just counter them with a remote call and they'll learn to ignore it unless given the command of okay or break, or the next heel command. Question on any of this stuff so far?
So do you use brake if they're off duty? Like your brake is just, you're free?
Correct, yeah. So my release word is break.
Okay.
Some people use free, some people use okay. I've had a few people use release. I had a military guy use at ease. It doesn't matter.
Because like when I ever sit for food, like she has to sit until I tell her, but I usually say release, break.
Yep.
Should I just use one?
Yeah, whatever. If you've been using, what has it been so far?
Release.
Release, then you would use release.
Okay.
So release is your universal break command. Yep. Whether she's in a heel, a stay, a place. If you've called her, like right now, if I told Lex break, she'd get up and like start to wander around because that's her release word. Okay.
Did you have to put her in there? Or
Yeah.
does she just know?
No, I just placed her. But that's what she normally does though. Like she just lays around. Like her default is when we're not doing anything, to just like chill.
Just to chill.
Yeah. But that's something that I conditioned into her since she was a puppy.
Right.
Because I've had her since she was 3 months and she's like 9 years old now.
I know. Yeah,
So.
That's nice.
And the way I did all that is just anytime she did something I didn't give her permission for, it was just corrected.
Yeah.
And then every time you would come to a stop, just by if she wasn't in the heel, she would just hold the position the entire time, or she'll just default into like a down or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's her first instinct is just
To
chill, unless I give her permission.
Right.
Right. So like for her, prior, like default was like I bark or lunge or whatever, right? And now you're just countering her. So now the default is just remain passive, or that you're trying to create is remain passive and don't worry about stuff.
No, and the guy she barked at this morning for the first time, because usually I put me in between on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to challenge her to go in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that. But it took one tap and she gave it up.
Good.
And as you saw in the first or second week, it was multiple.
Yeah. We had to like go higher and do a lot.
So ever since I started the double tap, any tap, she's like, fuck this, and shuts it off.
You broke it down. Good.
Yeah,
because I was getting worried. I was like, she might need, because I have another dog that's on 2 now.
Right.
But we did all the stuff, and he just wasn't.
A 2 or 3 quick tap, and she's like, fuck you, I'm done.
Yes, and that's the biggest thing is being willing to do that to break the dog.
Yeah.
But people, they'll feel bad, like, oh, but the dog. I'm like, yeah, but the dog like lunges at people.
Right,
like,
the dog's gonna bite someone.
Exactly. So there's worse consequences than a couple of taps at 90 really quick.
Right.
But good. So what happens is once you break them down, they're like, all right, I've had it. Now lower power can be more meaningful.
Yep.
Now, let's say you're doing 60 now because it's working really well, and all of a sudden you start to notice like a streak of like now she's not responding as well.
Up it.
You would just exactly bump it and maybe even double tap again, because people tend to get stuck. Or they're thinking, oh, but the dog was doing great at 60. I'm like, I understand that, but then it wasn't doing great, so then logic tells you just go back up again.
Right.
But they get stuck on wanting the dog to behave at the lowest level possible. I go, it's not about that. It's about just keeping the dog in line.
Yeah.
Exactly. So with this So for the next one, what I like to do is once we teach the recall, I like blending all these things together, and it helps you build your obedience to a higher level. So I think we did the same thing
in between.
Yeah, like we did this with Rainey, I think like the last class or two, of blending the heel, the recall, and the stay to build her towards off-leash reliability. Which is, it's technically what we've been doing from day one are off-leash methods. It's just when you get to that point, do you want to put in the work and the time to get it to be to that level?
Right.
Because if your dog will listen without the leash, then the leash doesn't even matter. Like that's the highest level of discipline.
Yeah.
Okay. Questions on any of that?
No, it makes a lot of sense.
With the leg movements, very important now to remember left and right.
To stay
the
right,
heel.
left heel. Yeah.
Correct. Because if you did stay and you move forward with your left leg, she's going to default to the heel.
Yeah.
Because she's thinking that's what she does. That's like the sign language for the let's walk is the heel is the left leg. Because she doesn't know what stay and heel mean. She just associates what to do when she hears the word to avoid the tap.
Yep.
So a lot of people wonder, like, well, if I said stay, why would my dog walk if I use my left leg? I'm like, because they read body language more than they listen to what you're saying.
Yep.
Okay. So as you progress with the stay, the reason why we pivot out with that right leg to face them is it makes it easier for the dog to hang back. If you're to step forward at the get-go with the right leg, it looks too much like heel that the dog will most likely default to
Moving
following
forward.
you.
Yeah.
Correct. So, but as you advance it, it would just be stay, and you would actually lead with your right leg like this, or lead with your right leg, then start walking around. And you keep repeating those two movements back to back, and eventually she'll learn, pick up, like,
What's the difference? Yeah.
left leg means heel, right leg means don't move. Technically up to the point where you don't need the words, and she would just default to the behaviors, okay? But all it takes is just consistency and practice.
Yeah.
I'm not big on practicing stay like a training session like we did right now. Like I showed you it, and that's how we teach it. But it's really just finding places to put it when you take her out
To
for your
add
walks.
it on top.
Correct. So when you're walking around, for your 20-minute walks or whatever, just finding places in that walk to apply it.
Got it.
Other questions?
None right now. So that's 3. What's the other 3?
Commands?
Yeah.
We have sit, stay, down, come, place, heel. So then
So
we've
come.
learned place, stay, and heel, which leaves come, sit, and down.
Got it.
Okay. If everything's going well in the home and you want to cover the other 3, recall typically just takes a class for me to teach you, and then it's go out and practice.
Right.
It does take a long time to teach though, because recall requires you to go to the park, pop her on a long leash, let her be a dog, and then call her. All the other commands, heel, well, you walk your dog multiple times a day,
Yeah.
so that's learned really quickly. Sit, stay, down, in place, because you can practice those inside.
home, yeah.
Exactly. Those progress at your own
Yep.
pace. So if you'd like to cover the other 3 commands, we have the time to do it, because I usually do down and sit in one class and the recall in another class.
Yeah.
If you want to teach down, I recommend revisiting down if she knows it with treats at all. Which does
She knows down.
she? Okay.
So
With the
she'll-
verbal word, or will she do it with like a treat?
Oh, I usually do something with my hand, like, so I don't have I'm not as consistent with the cue, but it's usually like, I use it the most when we're sitting on the couch and she's coming up either trying to overly get pet or is like trying to get in our lap. I'll do sit and then I'll do down, like just pull my hand down to the ground, and then she usually lays down.
Gotcha. What I would do, if you would like to lay a remote over those commands, is starting now, 1 time a day, 2 to 3 minutes, get a handful of treats, and just do downs. Okay? Don't worry about how fancy they look or anything like that.
Yeah.
Until we get to the class where we're going to actually use it, and it'll make layering e-collar over the down easier.
Yeah. I do it with, whenever I give her a bone, it's usually down, and I'll put the bone in front of her, and then she can't get it until I release it.
Give her permission?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So I would just revisit it repeatedly, down, break, or down, release, whatever. 3 to 5 minutes, 1 time a day. So by the time we get to layering remote collar over it, it'll be easy.
Yeah.
Because downing in response to e-collar is against the dog's instinct. They typically want to
Sit.
get out of it. Yeah, they want to pull back or sit up or stand up. and that's what makes it difficult. But if they've been drilling it for a bit using food, much easier. Okay, so then you would have your 6 commands, and the down is nice because it doesn't require a placemat. You can just down her,
Right.
but you still have stationary control.
Yep.
So like yesterday with Lex, she was with me. My last 2 clients needed the placemat, so I just downed her for the last 2 hours. She didn't move. So
It must be nice.
well, she got up once, but but yeah, she won't move. So that gives you the 6 commands, and then you would just practice them. The only command that has to be off-leash reliable is the recall.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's kind of pointless. But everything else is to what level do you want it to be? And then long leash for the recall exercise. And that's all 60 right now?
Yeah.
That's good. That's a lot better than a few weeks ago.
And I don't know that this one is I think it's more interested. I usually just cut her from any staring.
Sure.
Just because I think this is more, I actually want to go play, but it's more just learning to distract.
Yeah, but it's a big difference though.
Right.
Because before you were like borderline arguing with her to get her to stop.
And her ears wouldn't go back.
Yeah,
Her
and
ears
it was
stood
even
up.
stuff like that far away too.
Right.
I remember. Now
Well, the
that's
one,
a lot
she
better.
was seeking it. She was wanting to find something. It was like, if I got her off of that, she's looking over, like she was
all
pissed
over the
that
place. Yeah. No, that's a lot better. Because she even like sat back and
Comes
she's
back
going to
to me,
relax it.
yep.
Yeah, much better.
And if she's quieter in the house and I give her some of those, she'll just come lay by me and be like, all right, I give up.
Sure.
Just tell me what to do next.
And in the home, what are you using it to correct?
A lot of the times it's basically like her, if the girls are running around or if the girls are eating, it's her just not chasing them. You know, if they start sprinting around, then she'll want to run and like she'll knock them over.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, take their like toy, like say like a stuffed animal or something. Because it's very similar to her Chewy, like whatever she has in her crate.
Sure.
Or like during whenever they're eating like lunch or dinner, just make sure she's not hovering around them.
Sure.
To try to steal food.
Is there ever a time where she does something and you don't have the collar on to correct her?
Yeah.
How does she respond without the collar?
Pretty good. If I usually, like sometimes in the morning when I get her up and she doesn't have it on yet, I'll just give her like a or like sit, and she'll just stop.
Okay.
Because I've been trying to prevent her from just getting out of the cage and sprinting downstairs and trying to find out if there's any extra food or.
Sure.
So I make her walk down the stairs and then she waits for me at the bottom.
Is she kenneled overnight?
Yeah.
What you can do is when you go to open the kennel, I don't say anything. I'll slowly open, and the dog might be so excited from the overnight that you'll see them try to squeeze through the door. And when the head passes through, I'll close it, and I'll get them right where the neck is, and I'll continue to press. And you keep pressing, and eventually you're gonna feel her kind of go like that, and you release pressure, and she'll flush in, and then you'll close and slowly open. Or if they try to barge out, just smack them with the gate, and they back off, and it creates a default like when they open, there's no barge.
Right.
So it's your physical consequence without the need of having the collar on.
Yeah.
And then you would give permission for her to come out. The only problem is if you say break or release, she'll shoot out.
Yeah.
Okay, because it's like kind of still there.
It's pent up.
But you can actually correct all that stuff if you'd like. It's just that's where you're stuck, right? Because you're like, well, she doesn't have her e-collar on. So
She'll usually listen if I tell her like sit or wait, or if she starts moving too fast, I give her like and then she'll just like come. She'll sit. She'll either sit or just slow down. But part of it too is like I'll use it on her if she's like. The other thing is basically I go through the doorway first.
Right.
So she's not barging through every time the door opens.
Right.
But yeah, if I ask her to come, or I have like go bed, go office, like certain rooms, she knows if I say that, if she's trying to go somewhere and I'm like go office, she'll go into my office.
Gotcha.
Or if we're going upstairs and she's trying to scavenge around or look for food or look for, if the kids left candy.
Sure.
I'll just sit when she's starting to go upstairs, I say go bed, and she'll kind of go near her bed, and then when I'm up there, she'll go in.
Gotcha. Because if there's anything that like you want to correct, but she's like off the collar, like barking out a window or something, what we use is a bonker. It's just a rolled up towel, and you can use hair bands or rubber bands or whatever, zip ties.
Something loud.
To keep it, not loud, but it's, you take your towel, you roll it up, and you make like a cylinder-like object. So it's a firm but soft object to correct, you can see the whites in her eyes, to correct the behavior. So you literally bonk the dog. So you either throw it at him or you can bonk him yourself.
Okay.
And so it's because the e-collar is nice because you can press the button and that does everything for you. But then you get stuck when you take the collar off and the dog's like barking out the window or something, and that's where the bonker comes into play. Because then it bridges the gap between collar and no collar.
Yep.
So like I have a client, he just finished his program. On the collar, the dog was great. Off the collar, the dog would attack the other dog in the house. So then he's like, yeah, the collar on the dog won't do anything. But then I was like, I got to take the collar on at some point. I'm like, sure. I'm like, so you're going to use this tool. And then once you started using the bonker, tip, and do a quick continuous. Hold right there.
I don't have no clue what provoked that.
So I'll talk about that right now. The bonker gives you something to correct the behavior despite the collar. Here, on the last one, remember I said you can see the whites of her eyes?
Yeah.
Is what we get is loading tension. So each person that was passing by, because we had the 3 bikes, we had that old lady, we had like the 3 young girls like walking by, and then this guy walks by, right? So then you get like 10 instances of like nothing happening.
Yep.
And all of a sudden on the 11th instance, you get something. That's what we call unresolved tension. Is she seeing stuff? It's passing, but she's holding.
She's building it.
She's building, right? So she goes 1, 2, 3, 4, and all of a sudden you get that 10.
Right.
Okay? So what I would do is whenever you see her, because you've been pretty good about being on stuff. There was a couple where we didn't tap because she didn't do anything, but you could still see where she was kind of concerned.
Staring or...
Like here. You see this, nothing happened here.
She didn't look at all,
Period, right? But all the other ones you would see this.
Building. Yeah.
Where you saw more of a paranoia. So when those went unchecked, then it leads to that guy.
Yep.
So with her, anytime you see a potential stimuli like a person or a stroller or whatever, you're shortening your leash and you're just like looking down and you're looking for that paranoia, okay? Now there, when you did the bunch of rapid fire taps and I said continuous, is because I wanted a very impactful correction.
Yeah.
Correct. And you can go back up to your 85 or whatever. We went down to 60 for the stay stuff because we were teaching something new. Yeah. So that was my bad. Afterwards, because here, when you're standing with her, really the only thing we would expect to have to correct is behavior.
Yeah.
Right? Since we're not doing the stay anymore, is that I would then jack it back up to my normal number. And like, let's say you would have continuous her and she would have like, and she like gives a little squeak. Good. Don't do that shit. Because now you have the residual stuff. You have the 1 every 100 people she sees stuff.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest bit to break because it's so infrequent. Like that was a little bit there. Right? Because it's so infrequent, it's harder to break because you're trying to catch those moments. So if you got her, when you correct these last little bits, like you're just laying on that pressure, much harsher than all the other stuff.
Right.
So like right now when you tapped her, that single tap, fine. Because all it was a glance, right?
Right.
But if you see another episode like that,
yeah,
you're just gonna have to ride her for a bit until you feel as if like, okay, now you got it.
Right.
So if I got spanked and I just walked away like rubbing my ass like, oh shit, that hurt. Mom was like, no, you didn't learn. I'll make you cry.
Right.
Same concept here, okay? But that was definitely loading tension from like 3 instances that went unresolved, and then she snapped at that one guy.
Out.
Yeah.
I mean, would it be helpful to even just practice, whether outside of Starbucks or at a park, just having her sit and deal with people passing?
Yeah, because you have a stopper.
Yeah.
It's just recognizing those little...
Well, because the staring is the first piece. I usually follow the ears as her first, and I usually correct before it gets further than that. But that one, she knew to keep her ears back, and then what was...
Yeah, it's
glaring.
all... everything I've seen so far has been the eyes.
Yeah.
And a little bit of the head, because she'll like side eye and then kind of
Yeah.
turn. But you'll see where, and it was funny because right before I said hi, I saw the whites of her eyes. Because you can see where she was a little bit concerned and she let it go.
Right.
So right there, I would remote. But yeah, so like stuff like that where we're quote unquote flooding. The reason why you can do it is because you have a stopper.
Right.
If you didn't have a stopper, you would just be getting her all jacked up with no lesson.
No, that's what I meant. If I had the collar, but just to train her that way.
Yeah,
Just
you could do that. You just have to be, because when I watch this stuff, and then like let's say you did that outside of a Starbucks, and you see 20 people, and then she has a reaction, and you're like, shit, why did that happen? You have to be able to backtrack in your mind
where the trigger.
all those 20 times, and then see where does she load. So like every time someone passed by, I'm like looking at her.
Yeah, that's the only one.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of a white over eyes there.
Right. Where she's.
Right. See that? Tap tap. There you go. Because she like
it.
this, like she shouldn't even care.
Right.
When she did that second look back, like no, we're not doing that.
Right.
Boom boom. So that remote. So the double taps has made a big difference for sure. Now it's just double tapping or triple or quadruple tapping until it's like don't even do that.
Right.
Okay, to really layer in the lesson for the stuff that you're trying to get her to cut out. But that's going to be the hardest bit because it's going to be one out of X amount of people
Right.
over the course of X
Well,
amount of
that's
days.
the least. I mean, she maybe goes to the park once or twice a week, so she's mostly in the house, and she's been good. And then we go on walks, but it's almost just
So like right there.
yeah, you got a double. She's not paying attention.
The park.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Just like this.
Times. Yeah.
So we don't do this a lot of just getting action around people.
Sure. So for your walks, just maybe intentionally go and visit your places that you think you can that you can handle. Handle more so space-wise, because here there's plenty of buffer, right? Because these sidewalks are twice as big as the standard sidewalk.
Right.
And just anytime you see something, it's always just checking right here without like making it super obvious of like, what are you doing?
Right.
You know, because then she's going to see you paranoid about something,
Right.
but she doesn't know that it's her behavior.
Yeah, and Sunday,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
you don't know what to do there. Just ignore it.
But that's what you're trying to see, is you're trying to see her go like, am I going to get corrected? Like, no, just like, don't do anything.
Right. But like we were at the Jonquil Sunday for probably an hour and a half, 2 hours, but I had her, the park's over here, like had her tied to a tree there.
Uh-huh.
I was watching her, but no one was near her. Did totally fine. It's just personal space.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So if anyone comes close into her area, that's when she starts to get reactionary.
Yeah, like a 3 to 5 foot space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like sidewalk or approaching her basically.
Oh, for
And
sure.
then she feels.
Which, I have to remember to bring my damn sleeve. I could bring my sleeve and we could do that as
Start
well.
fucking with her.
Yeah. So then it's like, now it's like she can do it, be corrected for it, and we're still gonna make contact with her.
Yeah.
Now, I do that as a precaution to help the dog handle people just walking by.
Yeah.
It'll make all that stuff easier, but I would still say like, don't worry about random people petting her, you know, because that's just there's too many variables there.
Right.
But we do that as a just in case, so if that ever happens, there's going to be a bigger buffer between her reacting after the person tries to move into her space. Other
There you
questions?
go. I think that's it for now. I mean, is there anything? What else for the last two do we want?
So there would either be the 3 obedience commands, or we could do recall and then personal space,
Okay.
or we could do home and I bring the suit and just see what she does. And
That actually probably wouldn't be a bad one.
whatever you like.
Basically, like messing with the front door
Mhm.
or coming
Just
through.
you have to schedule that with Maria ahead
Do
of
you want
time.
to do that next, or
If you like, you're the boss. But that logically speaking, I would say yes.
Okay. Oh,
So in case we do that one and there's still a problem, you still have class 6.
yeah.
Okay.
So let's do that. That's probably more than need to have. Nice to have.
That's a client of mine.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's my next client, but that was funny. I didn't expect to see
You got
her here.
confused.
She was at my daycare earlier. That's why. Hey, Katie. I just saw you. I was like, I just saw him. Yes, no. I didn't expect to see Bean. I was like, what? I saw him. Take care. He used to be crazy.
Oh, really?
Like shrieking. Like there was nothing going on. He was like shrieking.
Really?
Just from excitement.
Oh,
Overstimulation.
got it.
We were at Palmer Square. It was like literally empty, and the dog's like shrieking. Why are you shrieking? Like, because he's so excited.
Oh, so
Yeah. So now he's
at least more manageable than attacking.
people. Yeah. So yeah, I would say let's schedule the next one to be an in-home.